Hi there. Just a couple of thoughts around the development of the brain in the first 5 years. I think many of us are aware that actually it's such an important stage of life for the baby that starts in the womb and then carries on outside of the womb, particularly those first few years. The baby is so dependent on the adult. It's so dependent on being able to gaze into the eyes of the adult and feel known and feel held and feel contained and feel loved and feel celebrated over. And when the baby develops into a toddler and keeps growing up to their first 5 years, when they've been seen, when they've been heard, when they've been actually pretty much the center of attention, where people are able to kind of whoa, ooh, yum, when they're able to do those interactions with the baby consistently in a repetitive, consistent relationship basis, then actually the brain develops beautifully, and that becomes the foundation for the rest of their life. When there are interruptions in that process, in those first 5 years especially, we recognize it's a little bit like trying to build a house on sand, really. When I try and build sandcastles with my kids, they don't last very long. A bit of a storm comes, a bit of rain comes, a bit of water comes, and they're gone. And I feel so much that so often we're in a society that wants to rush, and we're busy, and we're trying to tick boxes, and so children aren't getting that gentle, nurture, attuned, um, gazing, but at the same time boundaried, holding the boundaries of what is okay and what isn't okay within behavior and within the home, not in an authoritarian, dominating way, but in a no, that's not okay. It's my job to keep you safe. We're not doing that here. We don't do that here. With an absolute sense of certainty, boundaries with nurture, with mirroring, with attunement, with kindness, with empathy, that we can be so attuned we can sense what's going on for the baby and the infant. When the child has enough of that, when they're seen and heard enough, when they feel safe to explore their feelings, when their big feelings have been explored because they've erupted, they've come out, and the primary caregivers have been able to hold space for that. They've been able to validate and witness those big emotions and then bring some safety and resolve to them consistently and repetitively. That's a good foundation for the rest of the child's life. That's the building foundations, which, we've built buildings and they go down so deep. You never see them again. They're so deep, those foundations. When we invest well, particularly in the first 5 years, with consistent nurturing caregiving, then actually those foundations can carry the weight of the structure of the adult human. They can carry the weight of seasons of uncertainty and disaster and crisis. Please, let's stop this belief that children are resilient. They're not resilient. They're as resilient as their attachment relationship with their primary caregiver. If they feel seen and heard, if they feel held, if they feel emotionally validated, if they've had enough co-regulation where they've been able to explode emotionally, or gently be able to reflect on emotions, and the primary caregiver is able to hold the space and be there and witness that, then they're resilient enough to be able to go through different crises and come back to their primary caregiver and go, ow, that hurt. What do I do now? And that relationship is their resilience. They're not resilient otherwise. And so we need to recognize that actually, even if we do brilliant therapy with the child, if we're sending them back to a home where there aren't strong enough boundaries, where there isn't enough of that emotionally connecting relationship with the primary attachment figure, then actually very often the therapy outcomes don't last long, because the house is built on something that's so wibbly wobbly. It's so not solid enough. So how can we, people, how can we invest better into the first 5 years of children's lives? We need to be paying our nurseries better. We need to be We need to have better ability for community life, for babies to grow up with other primary caregivers, with other adults around. We need to recognize postnatal depression. We need to recognize better shock, the shock of giving birth and then being responsible for the entire development of the brain of the child. Like, how can we do better at building communities that are supportive? Other nations have done so well. In England, we're really not doing well. What can we do? What projects are out there yet to be birthed? What can we do to change our communities? That actually these first 5 years we're investing into future community life. We're investing into future positive mental health. Come on, people, we've got so much more we can do. Well done for what you are doing. And don't forget, those building blocks are worth investing into. And those of us that are in the